Who controls your life? 5 steps to stop living by other people's rules. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that your life doesn't belong to you? And it seems that the choice of what to do and how to spend time is always yours, but it somehow gets quietly taken away by work, a boss, clients, obligations, and 1,000 other little things. There's never enough time for everything, and it feels as if, in your own life, you don't control anything yourself. A huge number of people who face this feeling solve the problem as follows. They quit employment and start working for themselves. And what's most interesting, at first this seems like the solution. Apparently, limitless freedom, the ability to make decisions on your own that you consider right, full control over your activity, and as you can imagine, a bunch of other perks. I'm sure that everyone who has just set sail on their own is visited by such thoughts. At least for the first couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then the interesting part begins. Then they usually face harsh reality. And in this very reality, you find yourself in a constant fear. For example, of losing clients, missing deadlines. And moreover, unlike employment, you have no guarantees that you'll earn money at all. And what's most interesting, in this reality, in fact, there is no freedom. If earlier you had to obey your boss, now you obey the client and deadlines. And it all already doesn't sound as cool as it seemed on the shore. Agreed? But the point here, in fact, is not even in freelancing, nor in employment, nor in business, because feeling like a hostage to these circumstances can happen to absolutely anyone. The point here, it seems to me, is something else entirely. In one simple question: who or what controls your life? If we look from my own bell tower, then I, as an entrepreneur with already quite a lot of experience, perfectly understand the anxiety of people who have just started their own thing, who have started working for themselves and are going through all these processes. And on the other hand, I also understand those who already have dozens of projects and just endless chaos, because I myself went through all this, but most importantly, I learned to cope with it. And in fact, today, in this video, I will tell you how to take control of your life and how to start using your time to the maximum so that it's managed not by clients and not by employees, but by you. And it seems to me that the information in today's video will be as useful as possible, not only for freelancers or business people, but for everyone who feels that in this huge chaos of tasks, they have simply forgotten when they last walked in the park without a phone. Let's start with the main question that is, in fact, in the title of this video: who controls your life? For example, when for the second week you refuse meetings with friends, sleep for 4 hours a day, and do everything in order to, say, satisfy your client's request, it may seem to you that it is precisely he who controls your life. In fact, this is not quite so. And now, a thought will sound, perhaps very simple, but important, and it needs not so much to be understood as to be felt, experienced, realized, and kept within. Your life is controlled only by you. No customer, boss, employee, indeed, no one and nothing is actually capable of controlling you. And here's why. No matter what business you're engaged in and what scale it has, you, like all other people on this planet, have always had, have, and will have only 24 hours in a day. And in fact, you can spend this time as you please, even lying on the bed and, aimlessly staring at the ceiling. But most likely, since you're watching this video, it means you have, on the contrary, a bunch of goals and various tasks. And most likely, there are so many of these tasks that you simply don't have enough time to complete them all. You have to choose which of them are worth your time and which, respectively, are not. And in fact, it is in this choice that the whole point lies, because our life is a constant choice of what to spend our time on at all. If you spend your time, as it seems to you, correctly, rationally, that is, on completing tasks, on communicating with clients, on the elimination of the business, but there is not enough time for all this, then you are still spending it incorrectly. If the business takes away your freedom and clients say, take all your time, then in fact you're making a choice in favor of giving them control over your life. But agree, you wouldn't wish such a life on an enemy. In fact, we all want to manage our time, our lives, and simply feel free. I think that's clear to everyone. And for this, you need to learn to manage your time perfectly so that it is enough for life and for work and for friends and for family and for yourself and so on. And it seems to me that the first thing that will allow you to do this is simply refusing tasks that do not cause you delight or do not bring you closer to your goal. There is a wonderful approach. It's called hell, yeah or no. In more detail, if you want to read, it's described in the eponymous book by Derek Sivers. Such an American businessman created a company with a turnover of more than $100 million a year. If a proposal does not make you burn with impatience to take it on, that is, if you don't want to start right today and dive in, then the most important thing to understand is that no reward for doing it is simply worth the time spent on it. The whole thing here lies in the fact that our brain will not receive satisfaction from the work done if the work for it was, akin to drudgery, if it had to go through resistance, because the very execution of the work will most likely simply take much more time and effort than you might spend even on a more voluminous task, but one that you are excited about, from which you catch a rush. Of course, it's important to understand that under conditions of total lack of money, when you have to fight literally for every client just to make ends meet, you most likely simply won't be able to resort to such a practice. But if you are in a position where your basic needs are covered, then you should learn not to grab at everything, because at some point, if you do this, you will simply burn out. You will have neither strength, nor motivation, nor time for anything at all, especially for what you actually work for. Let's take an example. Suppose you work for yourself, let's say as an editor. You create videos for bloggers on YouTube, and your global goal is to launch your own agency, channel, or for example, to become a blogger yourself. What do you need for this? First, finances. That's quite simple. Renting locations, equipment, staff, and so on. Second, you need a team, at least a scriptwriter and a cameraman. And third, you need time to plan all this, to write scripts for your own episodes, to shoot them, and so on. And now to the math. 3 edits per month pay for your apartment, food, internet, transport, and everything else minimally necessary, so to speak. All your work above this is, in fact, work toward your global goal. And work here will be not only editing. Let's say it takes you, for example, 30 hours of pure time to assemble one video, but an unpleasant, picky, rude client approaches you, and you, by inertia, agree to take on his work. Since, well, you understand, you can't refuse money. I'm not a fool. There's an order. We take it. As a result, with a probability of about 99%, you spend more than your usual 30 hours on this task. In addition, you get stress, fatigue, burnout, lose a bunch of time to pull yourself together to somehow return to a state of control over your emotions and life. In fairness, you did close one of your needs, the financial one, let's call it that. But the question is, what would have happened if you had refused this request and had closed another need? Let's look at the facts. You need money, among other things, in order to pay for the services of a cameraman and scriptwriter in the future to implement your big idea. To get money, you need to take on the problematic client. The question, why not skip this stage of spending time to earn money that will then go to pay the scriptwriter, and instead spend this time learning to write yourself? One simple manipulation with time, but how many pluses will it bring in the end? Let's try to count. Plus 1 skill to your piggy bank. That's never superfluous, I think you understand. Plus better understanding of how in the future, when your agency or your channel becomes the main source of income, to set briefs for the scriptwriter. Third plus, the absence of negative emotions, since the problem client, as you understand, disappears. Next, 4th time saved, as you didn't have to spend it on banal recovery after this work. Recovery from negative emotions. And probably the 5th plus is the feeling of control over your life and your time. And it seems to me this makes us feel more productive and more complete, that inner feeling. Well, in general, agree. Quite a hefty number of pluses that were immediately not even visible. And this is the essence. This is exactly how the principle works. Hell, yeah or no. The second important part of managing your life is freedom through limitations. I know it sounds rather strange, but I'll explain now. Try to remember yourself at about 17 when you want to walk at night, light a cigarette at home, instead of hiding from your parents behind garages, party, at a disco, instead of preparing for exams, and so on. And in that age, it seems that the ability to do what you want is freedom. But let's figure out whether this is really so. Let's take a banal example, the example of smoking. The logic seems correct. I am free to do what I want, including smoking. But as you understand, habits are divided into useful and harmful for a reason. And any harmful habit is a dependence. And as you understand, under the condition of dependence, freedom is simply a priori impossible because you begin to rebuild your life according to these harmful habits, which means you become less free in your actions. And the same, in fact, can be said, about 1,000 things. Endless scrolling of reels, filling a shopping cart on Wildberries, tracking the lives of acquaintances on social networks, and so on. So the logic of freedom through limitations is to say to yourself, it's not that I am free to smoke, to scroll, to stalk, and so on, but I am free to not do all this. That is, in fact, you consciously limit yourself and your freedom, but at the same time, paradoxically, you acquire more freedom. Here's why. Because, let's take again the dependence on smoking. It takes away, conditionally, an hour every day, and you can't spend this hour on anything else simply because that's how dependence works. You just do it. But if you refused, for example, to smoke, that is, you would limit your freedom, as it seems at first glance, then you could spend this hour on absolutely anything. It turns out you limited yourself in only one action, but at the same time got access to a million others, which, in addition, as you could already guess, can potentially bring you benefit. But what's even cooler in such limitations is that you actually gain a sense of inner freedom and realize the preciousness of your time when you see that its redistribution leads you to new results. Third, making a schedule and a task planner. There's probably nothing new here. I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it another 1,000, simply because it really works. Nevertheless, a few extremely important things. First, determine your regular tasks. In my case, for example, at least 30 minutes of physical activity every day. Sports help me maintain discipline, feel active. That's where energy appears from. In my opinion, it cannot come from anywhere else. Therefore, first you need to make a push to disperse it, and only then everything else. For me, this is sports. The second important point, learn to set yourself a kind of highlight of the day. What is that? For me, this is the most priority task for the day, and it must always be completed, no matter what. For the sake of such a task, you can even refuse all other tasks, because this is the most important task. Ideally, in fact, it should be such that on the same day, you can add 1 or 2 more tasks, yes, so that they are compatible. 1 most important highlight of the day, and 2 secondary tasks. What else is important? It's important to set this highlight task in the first half of the day when a person is most productive. And in fact, it's just logical. If you say by 2 p.m. have finished this task, the main task for the day, then you simply enjoy this, praise yourself, and with the acquired confidence, by the way, in your abilities, go on to do other things. Third, if you have more than 2 or 3 tasks a day, then write them down and allocate specific time for them. It seems to me there should be no such thing as a task existing detached from time. Again, if you have many tasks, and all of them, as we discussed before, are hell yeah. If, for example, you have a task and it's written down that you must sit down to it at 16 new to a specific task and work on it until 18, then by 15:30, you will automatically sort out everything that can simply distract you from completing it. It seems to me that a schedule is the simplest and most convenient guide for yourself. Don't know how to spend time effectively? Please, look at the schedule. The answer is right before your eyes. Another important skill is delegation of tasks. In the case when you have just left employment and started working for yourself, there may not be enough money to give, say, part of your work to others. And here, it seems to me, only math helps. You really need to sit down and calculate. Maybe in reality everything is not quite so, and you have such an opportunity, but you simply don't know about it or don't see it. Therefore, let's, as always, take an example. Suppose until this moment you worked as a teacher at a school. Now you have completely moved into tutoring, and you have the ultimate goal, to open your own online school when, for example, a sufficient number of students is recruited. An hour of classes with you costs 2,000 rubles. And at first glance you have nothing to delegate. Well, it's just the specifics of the work, But again, if we look a little wider and remember that time is a choice, then we can see non-obvious tasks that can be given to other people. For example, general cleaning of the apartment. Honestly, my favorite example. At least once a week you need to wipe dust everywhere, vacuum, wash the floors, water the plants, and so on. Usually this takes at least, say, 3-4 hours plus time to rest, to recover, and so on. So, in 4 hours of classes, you could earn 8,000 rubles. In addition, for example, you could take on a new student, which would ultimately bring you closer to the ultimate goal of opening your own school. Accordingly, it may make sense for you to hire a housekeeper to whom you can delegate part of this work. At the same time, according to the math, it would be great if you managed to agree, say, for less than 8,000 rubles for cleaning. But even if this amount is comparable one-to-one, it still makes sense, because during this time, you can, for example, take a new student and will gradually get closer to the goal, rather than simply spending this time on cleaning yourself. And finally, the most difficult, but I think the most important skill that will allow you to control your time and manage your life is the ability to be satisfied with the work done. Attention without feeling guilty toward yourself for the fact that you could have done more. The most important thing, because without the feeling of satisfaction, any work will be absolutely meaningless. Once, I think you've heard this many times, a phrase stuck in my head that we like it when we succeed. And this is exactly it. And blaming yourself for insufficiency, in my opinion, leads to nothing at all, except for the loss of time, opportunities, and self-confidence. And instead of reproaching yourself, it's always better to say, okay, I'm great, because in the morning there was nothing, and now at least something has appeared. And it appeared thanks to my efforts, and now I just need to figure out how to do even more tomorrow. I think you all know that positive thoughts lead to positive results and vice versa. Therefore, remember this. To summarize, friends, only you manage your time. And in order to learn how to manage it competently, take full control of your life. To do this, the following will help you. First, the hell yeah or no principle, freedom through limitations, the highlight of the day, a schedule with the time for completing tasks, delegation of tasks, and praising yourself for their completion. Well, friends, that's it for today. Be sure to share your tips in the comments on managing personal time. Perhaps they will help someone learn better to control their life. Perhaps even me. I read all the comments, by the way. So, write. Also, write how you liked the episode, whether you managed to find something useful, something practical for yourself. Your feedback directly affects the topic of my videos, the quality of the videos, so I will be grateful for it. Hugs to everyone. See you soon, friends. Bye-bye.